Did you know? Nintendo considered naming A Link Between Worlds The New Legend of Zelda. This was due to the game's new yet classic approach, which was likened to New Super Mario Bros. And how that game brought Mario back to its roots. A Link to the Past was called Triforce of the Gods in Japan. And since A Link Between Worlds is a sequel of sorts, its Japanese name is simply The Legend of Zelda Triforce of the Gods 2. Although A Link Between Worlds is the game's final name, it was internally called Jack. This seems to be part of a bigger reference. The internal name for Ocarina of Time 3D is Queen. For Wind Waker HD, it's King. And for Majora's Mask 3D, it's Joker. The internal name for Triforce Heroes is Alice, implying the project names are all a reference to Alice in Wonderland. The game has another secret within a name. The protagonist Yuga is named after the Japanese word Yuga, which means oil painting, a clear reference to his wall-merging magic. Plans to make A Link Between Worlds began immediately after the completion of Spirit Tracks in 2009, and before the 3DS was fully developed. Most of the Spirit Tracks team left to work on Skyward Sword, leaving only 3 developers to work on a new game. These were Shiro Mori, Hiromasa Shikata, and an unnamed programmer. The 3-man team began making a game around the theme of communication, and after about 6 months of work, the project was shown to Zelda creator Shigeru Miyamoto. Miyamoto thought the project was outdated, saying it seemed like an idea that's 20 years old. The team dropped their old concept and brainstormed something new. During a meeting, Shikata had the idea of Link entering walls. The concept didn't make sense to him at the time, but it was at least something they could expand on. Although Shikata came up with the wall merging idea, series producer Eiji Aonuma has a different account of where the concept came from. Aonuma told Spike.com that it originated from the Phantom Ganon fight in Ocarina of Time. He stated, "There's a part there where Phantom Ganon turned into a painting, but we thought it might be interesting to give Link that ability, to have him be able to turn into a painting and go in the walls, and then use that ability to get around obstacles and go to places that he hadn't been able to go to before." That said, Aonuma could simply be describing how they elaborated on Shikata's idea. A prototype of Link merging with walls and wrapping around corners was made in a single day, and the idea of Link going through cracks in walls spawned from this prototype. The project was again presented to Miyamoto, who this time gave his approval. After their victory, however, the team was disbanded to work on titles for the upcoming Wii U, which desperately needed games for its launch. Sensing the project wouldn't be finished in 2013 if work didn't resume immediately, Aonuma worked part-time on the game with 2 staff members while the rest of the team were away. A few test dungeons with the wall mechanic were made, with plans to make 50 more small-scale dungeons. When this 50-dungeon proposal was shown to Miyamoto, it was literally torn up. Miyamoto reiterated a suggestion he'd already made, that they should base the game on A Link to the Past. Miyamoto had previously asked for A Link to the Past to be remade with stereoscopic 3D, but Aonuma had dismissed this. Aonuma thought a 2D game with 3D visuals wasn't interesting enough on its own. However, this idea was a solution to one of the game's issues. The title started out using the Spirit Tracks camera angle, which the team grew bored of. The camera didn't change enough when Link merged with a wall, which presumably affected the gameplay. To give a clearer view of Link, and better define both parts of the game, the camera was made to switch from a top-down view to a side view when Link transformed. For Aonuma, the wall merging and camera utilization ultimately justified a 2D-style Zelda having 3D visuals, as it made the concept more interesting. Instead of starting from scratch, Aonuma wanted to convert A Link to the Past's map into 3D. The team were worried about basing the game on A Link to the Past, as they didn't want the project to become yet another Zelda remake. Aonuma didn't believe it would become a remake, and tried to convince everyone that they were heading in the right direction. He made a tool to recreate the 2D maps in 3D, and quickly remade chunks of the world to show the team his vision. A test of Link moving around these areas was made within 2 months and shown to Miyamoto, who again approved. Some of these early, crudely rendered areas can still be found in the game's data. The team decided to make the game run at 60 frames per second, which led to many restrictions for the designers. They had to keep geometry simple and effects minimal to keep a constant high frame rate. This was done to stabilize the game's 3D effects, which the team began experimenting with. They tried using the game's stereoscopic 3D to enhance the Tower of Hera, as it had a lot of depth and verticality. The team made Link jump to the next floor by hitting jump platforms with a hammer to emphasize the 3D, but the idea didn't work out as they wanted. Instead, it became the mechanic where Link is slung into the air by the mole enemies. This area was one of the first to be made, and influenced how the rest of the game's dungeons were made. Although the team was eager to experiment with stereoscopic 3D, they had to keep themselves in check. Partway through development, they were told about the Nintendo 2DS and the system's game's limitations. Since its hardware couldn't display 3D, they had to tweak the game so that all puzzles could be solved without stereoscopic visuals. The team also experimented with Link being able to jump in his wall form, as they thought running along a wall resembled 2D platforming games. They ultimately decided to keep things simple and limit Link to horizontal movement. Another interesting detail about the game's perspective is that every object in the game is slanted. This was done so the player could clearly see the front of objects, such as Link. If the characters were standing straight, the player would only see the top of Link's head. Some dungeons in A Link to the Past can be completed out of chronological order. Nintendo saw an opportunity to expand on this concept and allow players to complete later dungeons in any order they want. This meant that if a player got stuck on a puzzle, they could simply go to a different dungeon and continue playing. Aonuma has admitted that Nintendo has a bad habit of holding the player's hand to make sure they don't get stuck. Aonuma and Shikata actually argued for 3 days over including a single hint in the game. It would have helped the player solve one of the game's puzzles, but was ultimately removed. The idea to rent items at a cheap, accessible price near the start of the game came from one of Aonuma's hobbies. People new to the hobby could rent items before purchasing them to see if they liked them, and the same economics were applied to the game. Interestingly, the team never intended to use a live orchestra for A Link Between Worlds. This is because live orchestras produce too much reverberation and low-pitched sounds for good playback on 3DS speakers. The game's music purposely uses recordings that are low in bass for optimal playback on the 3DS and standard earphones. The game has a few other musical secrets. When the Low-Rule Castle theme is reversed, part of it becomes the High-Rule Castle theme. Nintendo also reused some music exclusively in Japan. A track from an infamous Japanese A Link to the Past commercial was updated and reused to advertise A Link Between Worlds. Although some of the names appear to have been changed from A Link to the Past to A Link Between Worlds, they were simply reverted to their original names. The Loyal Sage was originally known as Shinpu in Japan, which means priest. The name was changed in A Link to the Past because of Nintendo of America's stance on minimizing religious references in games. Have you ever wanted to get into the gaming industry but don't know how? You can change that with Full Sail University. Full Sail has degree courses that teach the entire process of creating video games and can be completed on campus or online. Through their courses, you'll learn industry standards and get to work with professional development software. Their undergraduate game development program offers a comprehensive look at programming, and their undergraduate game art program shows students how to use professional tools. They even have a mobile gaming graduate program for those interested in iOS and Android development. And Full Sail students will receive a laptop along with game industry software for these courses. Full Sail University is held in high regard, and their graduates have gone on to work on titles such as Destiny, the Call of Duty series, and Far Cry 4. Gaming is a growing multi-billion-dollar industry, and fresh developers are in constant demand. If game development is something you want to pursue, visit fullsail.edu/dykg to learn more about their range of courses. If you like this video, give it a like, and for more Zelda facts, check out the Did You Know Gaming video on Ganon.